Hello and welcome to HIV RNA Test Guide podcast, your trusted source for HIV testing, with over 4,500 plus testing labs across the United States. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something, well, pretty remarkable in the search for an HIV cure. It's this idea, and it might surprise you, that the first big success, maybe even a cure, might actually come from children, not adults. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But we're going to explore some really cutting-edge research today. We'll unpack the science, the evidence, and look at why these pediatric cases are suddenly offering such powerful insights.
Exactly. We want to get past the headlines, understand the actual science behind it. What's unique about kids' biology in this context, we're drawing on work from key researchers like Philip Goulder, Alfredo Tagaro, Mark Cotton, Mariko Martins. Their findings together are painting a really compelling picture. It feels like a genuinely new direction.
Okay, so let's start with that pioneering work. Philip Goulder, he's a pediatrician, an immunologist at Oxford. And he's apparently been focused on this idea for years, that kids could hold the key. So back in the mid-2010s, he teamed up with scientists in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. They started tracking hundreds of children, kids who got HIV from their mothers. These children were put on antiretroviral drugs, ARVs, pretty early on to control a virus. Standard treatment, carefully monitored.
Right, standard treatment. But what happened next over the decade was anything but standard. 5 of these kids, they just stopped coming to the clinic for their meds. So Goulder's team eventually tracked them down months later, expecting the worst, probably.
Yeah, you'd expect their viral loads to be sky high.
Exactly. But they weren't. Goulder said they were actually undetectable, which is, well, HIV usually rebounds in 2 or 3 weeks.
Undetectable after months off medication.
In one case, it was up to 17 months. It was this really powerful, kind of tantalizing insight, as Goulder put it. It strongly suggested his hunch was right. Maybe widespread success could start with children, because their biology is somehow different.
And it seems like this isn't just an isolated thing from Goulder's group. Alfredo Tagaro, a pediatrician from Madrid, presented related findings recently, didn't he, at the International AIDS Society conference?
He did, yes. Tagaro's study showed something quite specific. About 5% of kids with HIV who get ARVs within the first 6 months of life, they managed to suppress their HIV viral reservoir to negligible levels.
The reservoir being those hidden cells where the virus lurks.
Precisely. And Tagaro's conclusion was pretty direct. He said, children have special immunological features, which makes it more likely that we will develop an HIV cure for them before other populations.
That's a strong statement.
It is. And it's echoed by others, like Mark Cotton in Cape Town. He directs pediatric infectious disease research at Stellenbosch University.
What's Cotton's take on it?
He emphasizes that, well, kids have a much more dynamic immune system. That's his phrase. Plus, there's a practical side. They generally don't have any additional issues like high blood pressure or kidney problems.
Fewer confounding factors, essentially.
Right. It makes them a better target initially for a cure. Cotton actually suspects maybe 10 to 20% of HIV-infected kids might control the virus for quite a while without ARVs. Much longer than that typical few weeks.
Okay, so multiple experts pointing to this unique potential in children. It really begs the question, what is different about them biologically?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Especially when you compare it to adults. I mean, we've heard about adult cures, maybe 10 since 2007.
Right. But those involved really complex, high-risk stem cell transplants, usually for cancer treatment.
Not something you do just for HIV.
Definitely not. It's just not a viable, widespread approach for HIV alone. And like Tagaro mentioned, kids with HIV have often felt a bit left behind in the cure research.
But now it seems their unique biology is putting them right at the center.
It really does. And, the clues were there earlier in those isolated cases.
Like the Mississippi baby.
Exactly. That child controlled the virus for over 2 years without meds. And there was a South African child, over a decade in remission. Those cases were hints, really. Now researchers are seeing the potential on a larger scale.
Which brings us back to Goulder's current work. He's running a new study, right? Taking kids off ARVs intentionally.
Yes, carefully, of course. He's taking 19 kids in South Africa who had suppressed the virus really well on ARVs. They stopped the drugs under close observation. The whole point is to see who doesn't rebound and, crucially, why.
And any early results?
He's reported that 6 of them, so far, have controlled the virus without any drugs for over 18 months.
18 months. That's significant.
It absolutely is. And based on this, Goulder has some fascinating hypotheses about why.
Okay, let's hear them. What makes these kids different?
Well, one idea that's quite intriguing revolves around gender. Looks like boys might actually have an edge in controlling the virus.
Boys?
It seems linked to the innate immune system, the body's first line of defense. Goulder explains that the female innate immune system is generally much more aggressive.
Which you'd think is good, right?
Usually, yes. But HIV is tricky. It infects activated immune cells. So a super aggressive female innate response might, paradoxically, just create more targets for the virus.
Ah, I see. Making them potentially more vulnerable initially or finding it harder to control.
Potentially. And there's another layer. Female fetuses share their mother's immune system environment. So they might receive an HIV strain that's already sort of adapted to evade that female innate response.
Wow, that's complex. Any other factors?
Yeah, a couple more. One is that the virus transmitted from mother to child might sometimes be a weakened strain. Maybe it had to mutate to get around the mother's adaptive immune system, the part that learns specific targets, and those changes made it less robust.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's something unique to baby boys. Testosterone surges in the first 6 months. It's sometimes called mini-puberty.
Mini-puberty, really?
And these testosterone surges can actually enhance their immune system, possibly priming key cells to fight off viruses like HIV more effectively early on.
So multiple biological factors potentially giving children, especially maybe boys, a unique advantage in fighting HIV early.
Exactly. It's this inherent biology that's so interesting.
But it's not just about their natural abilities, is it? Researchers are also developing new tools, new therapies.
Right. There's this whole new toolbox, as they call it, that could amplify what some children can already do.
What's in the toolbox?
Well, a major component is broadly neutralizing antibodies, or bNAbs. These are pretty amazing. They can recognize and neutralize lots of different HIV strains, even mutated ones.
So they're more versatile than our natural antibodies?
Much more so against HIV. And they do more than just neutralize. They can also flag infected cells for destruction by the rest of the immune system. It's a kind of double whammy.
Okay, bNAbs. What else?
Therapeutic vaccines are also in development. These aren't preventative like typical vaccines. They're designed to train the immune system's T cells to find and kill those hidden HIV reservoir cells.
And you mentioned children often respond better to vaccines generally.
They often do, yeah. Their immune systems are still developing, often more responsive. So that's another potential advantage for pediatric treatment.
So how did these new tools connect back to Goulder's observations?
Well, Goulder's point is, look, if some kids are already doing a decent job controlling the virus with just standard ARVs, maybe adding these bNAbs or a therapeutic vaccine could be the push they need. It could be the boost required to achieve, really long-term remission or even eradication in more children.
Building on that natural resilience.
Precisely. Targeted intervention layered on to innate ability.
And this isn't just talk. There are actual clinical trials planned using these tools.
Yes, several are gearing up. Mark Cotton, who we mentioned earlier, is involved in a really ambitious one. His trial plans to combine standard ARV therapy with 3 different bNAbs and an experimental vaccine from Oxford.
Wow, hitting it from all angles.
That seems to be the idea. And Goulder is running a separate trial looking at a different bNAb combined with ARVs, also aiming for that long-term remission. He uses this analogy with leukemia treatment, how it improved by combining different approaches.
Right, combination therapy.
Exactly. He thinks curing HIV probably requires a few hits from different angles, tackling it with different immune responses at the same time to essentially force it into a cul-de-sac that it can't escape from.
A cul-de-sac for the virus. I like that image, forcing it into a dead end.
Yeah, a powerful concept.
Okay, that's already pretty cutting edge, but there's something even more experimental being explored, right? Gene therapy.
Yes, the work of Mariko Martins at the University of Florida. That's definitely pushing the envelope.
Gene therapy sounds complex. How would that work for HIV?
It's actually quite ingenious. Instead of giving infusions of bNAbs, the idea is a one-time therapy. It delivers genetic instructions to the body's own muscle cells. These instructions tell the muscle cells to start producing the bNAbs themselves continuously.
So the body becomes its own bNAb factory.
Essentially, yes. A constant stream of these powerful antibodies produced internally. No need for repeated infusions or clinic visits for that specific treatment.
You can immediately see the advantages, especially in, say, low-income settings.
Absolutely. Think about places like Uganda, parts of South Africa, where daily medication adherence can be a huge challenge for mothers and children.
Logistics, stigma, access.
All of it. A one-time therapy could bypass so many of those real-world hurdles. It's potentially revolutionary from a practical standpoint.
And Martin sees preventative potential, too.
He does. He suggests giving the therapy to a baby right after birth could protect them from acquiring HIV through breastfeeding. And maybe, just maybe, even offer some protection against sexual transmission later in life. It's quite remarkable.
So why might this gene therapy specifically work better in children first?
Martinez points back to the developing immune system. Adults, with their mature immune systems, might develop an anti-drug response. Their bodies might see the engineered bNAbs as foreign and attack them, reducing the therapy's effectiveness.
Because the bNAbs are slightly modified.
Exactly. But children's immune systems are more naive, less likely to mount that kind of rejection response. Martin's actually tested this in newborn monkeys, rhesus macaques, and it worked much better in them than in older ones. He found a sweet spot, as he called it, the first few days or maybe 2 weeks after birth. That's when the gene therapy seemed most effective.
That timing is critical then.
It seems so, making it potentially ideal for preventing and treating pediatric HIV right from the start.
It sounds incredibly promising, although you mentioned funding can be a hurdle for this kind of advanced research.
Yes, that's often the case in cutting-edge science. Martin's apparently had NIH support for a trial withdrawn, which is a setback. But he's pursuing other avenues, like the Gates Foundation. The drive to push this forward is definitely still there.
Okay, so pulling this all together, it really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Children aren't just a vulnerable group affected by HIV. Their unique biology might actually make them the key to unlocking a cure.
That seems to be the core takeaway from all this research. While they're a minority of total infections, they might hold disproportionate importance for finding a cure strategy. Goulder really summed it up perfectly, I think. He said, we can learn a lot from them because they are different.
Different in a way that's advantageous for research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He continued, I think we can learn how to achieve a cure in kids if we continue along this pathway, and from there that will have applications in adults as well.
So breakthroughs in pediatrics leading the way for adult treatment.
It happens quite often in medicine, actually. Studying the unique aspects of childhood development and immunity can reveal fundamental biological principles that apply more broadly.
It definitely leaves you thinking, what does this deeper understanding of children's immune responses mean for other viruses, other diseases?
It's a great question.
It really underscores that sometimes the biggest answers come from looking where you least expect them. A powerful reminder for science and for all of us, really.